What is up, you beautiful viewers? Now, in my last video, I painted a saw that I bought from an indoor flea market, but I'd also bought this painting because I really like the frame. So what I'm going to do is bust this picture out and see what we're working with. I'm going to take the whole back off, and this is kind of textured. I'll try to show you guys in the camera, but there's a lot of texture going on this piece. So I'm going to see if maybe I can sand it down, but I just want to get this thing into good shape and see where we can take it from there. Once the panel was all sanded, I decided to prime it with a quick coat of spray paint. Whew, it's cold out there. While that's drying, I'm going to grab my iPad and I'm going to take a picture of the canvas, and I'm going to doodle something on there in Procreate. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to come up with. Okay, so it's been about a week, and I got to be honest with you guys. I know in my last video where I painted the saw, I mentioned that I was thinking about painting Donkey Kong for this piece, and I tried sketching stuff that I wasn't happy with it. It felt forced. It wasn't fitting the frame right. And I thought back to this piece that I had done some months ago of this rubber ducky, and I really liked how there was the marker tags kind of showing through. And I kind of wanted to apply that to this painting. And I know that the new Deadpool Wolverine movie is coming out, and I'm super excited about it, so I'd like to paint Wolverine. The next step was to take a picture of the panel and put it into my iPad Pro in a program called Procreate. This program allows me to draw right on top of the panel so that I could see exactly how my image will fit and come up with the best layout and best concept. To do this drawing, I'm using the 6B sketching pencil, and then I fine-tune it later with the technical pen found under inking. I wanted to make sure this painting was unique, so while I was doing this drawing, I didn't want to reference too many artists and take what they had done with Wolverine. I mainly referenced the suit, but came up with the poses and just kind of freehanded my own version of him that you could see here. I am fine-tuning now with the technical pen. I always like to spend a good amount of time on my drawing and making sure that I'm happy with that, because your drawing is your foundation, and if you're not happy with your foundation, you're not going to be happy with the final outcome. Once I'm happy with my line drawing, I can then print it and size it and get that thing transferred over onto the panel. Alright, so at this point I have everything sized out. I printed the paper and fit it on here the way I want it. So now I'm going to grab my graphite transfer paper and I'm going to transfer the image onto the plank here. Let's do it. Here I am cutting the graphite transfer paper to make sure that it fits on the panel, and then I'm going to tape it down and then place the image on top and tape that down, and I can then trace it. Once I've completed tracing the image and transferring it onto the panel, I can then use workable fixative to spray it and make sure that that image is going to stay on there and nothing is going to smudge. You can see that there's a lot of smudge marks on there. That stencil paper is pretty good, but yes, it has some smudging. And now I can start painting. To do this painting, I am using the Golden Fluid acrylics, and for brushes, I am using Trykel, besides this one red brush that I grabbed that I don't even know the brand of. Anyways, I always find it smart to start with the background of my piece and build up layers and then work to my foreground. I'm also going to be working from top to bottom with lots and lots and lots and lots of layers. I should probably explain that I said I'm going to be working top to bottom, but in the end, after I get a base coat, I go back and kind of work sporadically around the canvas to build up more contrast, but we'll get into that later. At this point, I've already laid in some of my base tones. I've written what we'll call the woke marker tag across the head of the character, and now I am starting on more of the mask by kind of mixing like blues and black with white to get like a cool gray tone, almost like a cool blue gray. You can see I'm also going back into the woke tag that's on there, and I kind of layered in a watered down version of the yellow on top of it to kind of create like a glare on there. And you could also use a matte medium to get that effect, but it's basically just glazing colors, thinning out the paint so that you could just kind of do a nice thin transparent kind of layer on top of it, and that makes it look a little faded or faint and creates like a glare on top as well. The other thing I want to point out, since I'm doing so many layers and using this glazing technique, is that I'm using a hairdryer to make sure that the paint is drying faster so that when you layer on top of it, it goes on a little smoother. You're not kind of sometimes it can pull the paint that you already laid down and smear that, or just completely like remove that area if the paint is too wet on your brush. So it's important to make sure that you go in with a hairdryer or give it the correct amount of time to dry with the air. Now we could talk about these eyes. I thought it'd be really cool to make Wolverine's eyes glowing red. And to do this, I'm doing that same glazing technique. I'm putting a little bit of red outside of the eye section and on the mask so that you get that kind of glow effect and that it reads to the viewer. And just remember, none of what I'm doing at the moment is final touches. I'm just laying in base coats, trying to see what I like for color schemes, where I like the colors. I didn't know what I was going to do with the body here. I didn't know if I was going to fade it out, if I was going to hardline it. I had no idea. I was just kind of playing with the paint, having fun, messing with colors. Like I said, I really like this like blue gray effect that I was doing on some of the shoulder pads on the mask. I felt like those colors played well off the yellow, so that's something to be aware of as well, as complementary colors. And like I said, a lot of layers. You could see I'm going back into the top. I'm adding more contrast. I'm trying to make that marker tag look really worn out, make sure that the glare that would be right on the top of his head is showing through correctly, and also adding some contrast on the outer perimeter of the head by going in with some of the browns to kind of make that yellow a little more rich. You can see all of this is a very tedious process, so one of the things that I like to use is the Stay Wet palette, which is to the right of me. This is a new tool that I've been using, and I found that if you keep it more so damp, the first time I used it, I had everything soaking wet. I had the paper super wet, the sponge underneath super wet, and I found that my paint was leaking way too much. You can kind of see that it's a little leaky here as well, but it kept the paint wet for the multiple days that I spent working on this painting. I have no idea in the long run how long this painting totally took, but I would guess maybe 10 hours. For some reason for me, when I paint canvas, it's just so slow and I need to take more breaks. So I think I worked on this for about 3 days, maybe 2 to 3 hours each session. So I think there was about 3 sessions at 2 to 3 hours per session. For some reason, when I spray paint and do my graffiti work, I am locked in. I get most of my stuff done in a day. I don't know if maybe I could just base colors faster and layer easier. But yeah, when I'm using the brushes and doing this acrylic stuff, it is very tedious to me. I know a lot of you watching are probably sitting there saying, I don't understand how you do the stuff you do with spray paint. But to me, I am much more familiar with spray paint than I am acrylic paint. As far as my background goes, in high school, I messed with acrylic paint a little bit. In college, I started working with watercolors. I used gouache. I used oil paints. So I was a little familiar with all of those mediums. But spray paint has been a constant since the end of high school for me until I'm old now. We'll say that. And I've used spray paint this whole time, but I took a long break from all the other paints when I started tattooing about 15 years ago. Now that I've started this YouTube journey about, I think like 8 months ago now, I've gotten back into acrylic painting. So, it's been a long break. I'm trying to knock the rust off and do the best I can, but if you don't like it, that's fine. Let me know either way in the comments what you guys think. If you want to see more of these videos, I'll keep painting here and there, but like I said, spray paint is my most familiar medium. also, I'm sure there's stuff I do wrong. I'm sure there's better ways to do things with acrylic. So if you are an acrylic painter watching this and you have tips or tricks, leave them in the comments. Let me know. We can all learn together. Sorry for the sidetrack rant. We'll get back into the painting. You can see I also added the crew that I'm in, the Na crew, to the glove. I just wanted to give a little shout out to the crew. So yeah, we got the woke on the face mask. I got the Na on the glove. I added a little X-Men tattoo on Wolverine's bicep. I thought that would just be a little funny touch. And while I'm on this section now, there's some dead space that was in the bottom left corner of the painting. And I did not know what I was going to do there to kind of just fill that gap. And I just decided dripping the glove out was a nice, simplistic effect. It did everything I wanted it to. If you don't like it, that's fine. I paint for fun for me, so you don't have to like it. But I thought it was effective and took up the space in a pleasing way. You can see at this point, I've done a lot of detail work. I've done little textures on the cigar. I've done little stippling for little beard hairs. And I've also created a glow on the blades. We'll say blades, I guess. Since that's such a shiny, reflective surface, it would show the red that's in the background reflecting on that. Okay, so at this point, my painting is done. It just needs a coat of varnish. So I'm going to do that now. And the only other thing I have to do is I have to paint this frame. I was looking at it a little closer. I saw some of the corners had a couple dings here and there, so I sanded those down. So I think I'm going to do black on the outer perimeter, and I'm going to try to find a gold or something that can match this inside perimeter. If not, I might just go black for the whole thing, but we'll see. Spoiler alert, I did not go black for the frame. I primed it first with this gray, and then I tried to find a gold. I had a bunch of gold, but it was like 15 years old and it just didn't work anymore. So I decided to go yellow to match the Wolverine. And I gotta say, don't knock it until the end. You guys can let me know. It was quite the surprise. And speaking of surprises, you know how I always love to sneak in a commercial for my website, kbuart.com. If you guys want to support me more, you can head on over. I've got plenty of merch available. I've got pins, stickers, prints, t-shirts, original artwork. So check it out. Maybe get yourself something. And now it's time to varnish. All right, guys, that's a wrap. It's all varnished. The only thing left to do is put that panel in the frame and then get that up on my website, kbuart.com. It will be available, so if you know someone that loves Wolverine, maybe share this video with them. Make sure they see it. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. And I also want to mention, I do have my Patreon out. It's woke.one. There's multiple tiers. Some of the stuff that I'll be posting in there is footage of projects that aren't out yet. And I will also be posting stuff that may not be on any of my social medias. So some of the sketches for projects that I will never post will be up on there. So be sure to check it out. It's woke.one. If you guys can't afford to join the Patreon, I completely understand. Just be sure to like, share, subscribe, follow along for more. I appreciate you guys so much. Anything you guys can do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here it is, the final product.